I'm going to be sharing the 6 main things that I always make sure to do in order to set my goals effectively and actually be able to reach them. And then after that, I'm going to be sharing 3 main time management tips that I always make sure to do, because time management can be tricky for us artists and goes hand in hand with goal setting and reaching our goals. If we cannot manage our time properly, then we're not going to be able to put in the work consistently in order to reach set goals. The main thing is to be doing a little bit each day in a way that works for us and everything that we have going on. Learn how to properly break things down, establish or create small little tasks that make sense for you and everything that you have going on consistently. Do those little things over and over throughout the weeks. That's how you get things done. I'm actually going to be sharing my own goal setting method and the strategy, because if I don't provide the actual strategy, then how are we actually going to get things done? Let's jump right in. So, why is it important for artists to set goals? The fact of the matter is that unless you're creating art just for fun, for realization, you're not super serious about growing your skills, then it's going to be important for you to actually set goals for yourself. If this is a hobby for you and you want to develop your skills to become more proficient in your craft, if it's a serious hobby for you and it's important for you to progress your skills, or maybe it's something that you want to take to a professional level in the future, or maybe you already have started selling your work or started using your, art skills to make some sort of income, whether it's a small income or you're really wanting to go full time, you have to set goals. And also, it's important to just remember that growing your skills with any single drawing or painting medium requires focus and it requires time. It requires dedication. We often think of art as being something easy to do. Some types of art may be for some people. They can come in easily to some people, but growing your skills with anything, it takes time and it requires focus to some degree. If you try to do too much at once, or you do whatever you're inspired to do any given day and there is no sense of consistency in what you're doing, you're likely going to continue feeling scattered, overwhelmed, and you're going to make very little progress in a variety of different areas that are not even connected to each other, instead of deep, meaningful progress in just a few. And this is something that I see so many creatives struggle with, because most of us are multi-passionate. We're interested in a variety of different artistic fields. This is something that I personally struggled with a whole bunch, and I still consider myself to be a multi-passionate artist. I'm not willing to give up my pen and ink practice because I am going to dedicate myself fully to watercolor, or I'm not going to be giving up my drawing because I want to paint. For me, keeping at least a handful of different mediums and subjects that I am continuing to progress in is important. I have already narrowed down my mediums as much as I want to narrow them down. And for me, it just makes sense because it keeps me from burning out and it keeps me from running into an art block. And it makes sense for me to have at least a couple of different drawing mediums and a couple of different painting mediums that I'm constantly trying to improve on. If you're like me, then don't feel pressured to narrow it down to one single thing. Keep it to a handful of things. Don't be doing all sorts of different painting mediums and all sorts of different drawing mediums with all sorts of different substrates. That is not consistent enough. You're not going to be able to progress with any single one of them very much at all. And then at the end of the day, a lot of times what I've seen when I'm talking with students and people is that they are feeling super scattered and overwhelmed and making very little progress in these areas. And it is precisely because of that, because the mediums and the subjects and all these things that they are working with, they're just too many. Try to narrow it down to at least a handful so that at least you are touching upon these specific mediums consistently enough so that you're able to make deeper progress. As visual people, it's super easy to fall into the shiny shiny object syndrome, and this leads to so much wasted time. Media is thrown at our faces all day long via social media and books and magazines, all of these different things. And because we're visual people, we get inspired visually. So we're seeing all of these things and we're inspired to do them. We see a beautiful piece created by another artist and it inspires us to do something like that. And now I want to do this. And then tomorrow I want to do that because I was inspired by this other piece that I saw. That is going to keep you scattered again. You can't really depend on social media for inspiration. You need to create your own goals that are meaningful for you. And then if you see inspiration on social media that is related to that goal, then sure, you can use it as inspiration, but it's very different to set a goal and then get references and inspiration from other people that get traced back to that goal that you just set than the other way around, not having any goals at all and just scrolling on social media, YouTube or whatever. You see something and you just feel like doing it because you're inspired out of whim. You just start doing that when they have nothing to do with any pre-existing goals that you set for yourself. There's a huge difference. Effective goal setting encourages us to improve in different areas of our lives, including our well-being. Our mental and physical health is what I'm referring to. Better health will increase your creative output as an artist so that you can reach your artistic goals sooner. So many artists fall into thinking that they are suffering some sort of burnout or block, but it's actually the fact that they're not taking care of themselves. You cannot expect yourself to enjoy the art making process if you're not paying attention to your health, if you're not sleeping, if you're not eating well, if you're not moving. All of these things are going to have a huge impact on how much work you're able to do, which is going to lead to faster or slower progress. And it's also, at the end of the day, going to keep you from enjoying the work that you're doing if you're unwell. Set little boundaries and kind of rules for ourselves when it comes to social media and all these things that we're intaking. We need to protect our focus and our energy as artists. It's precious. So an important note on goal setting, and I want you to remember this always, please, especially my perfectionists out there, the purpose of setting goals is not necessarily to reach them to perfection 100%. It's actually to have this North Star, to consistently make progress toward that person that you want to be and the life that you want to be living. The simple act of sitting down and giving thought to what is important to you and why, and setting small, doable tasks that you can actually, in a practical way, do each day that fit into your current chapter in life, continuing to work toward what matters to you. That is what is going to bring you fulfillment. Learning to love the process and learning to love the work that you're doing to become that. And the final thing here is life is messy and unpredictable. There's only so much that we can control. We have to continue being flexible. 6 keys for effective goal setting. Are we doing all of these? Because I can tell you for myself, when I was first starting to set goals in that new year, they never worked. I always ended up giving up. And I'm talking about myself maybe 7, 8 years ago when I was first trying to set goals for the next year. I always ended up giving up a couple months in. Maybe by February, I wasn't doing any of the things that I had like told myself, you're gonna do this. I always gave up. Now I know that these things are important if I want to actually reach my goals. First thing is continue working on your mindset alongside your cold artistic skills. And this is something that you guys who have been part of my communities have heard me say over and over and over again. You're probably already tired of me saying this, but guys, your mind is so powerful. Creating art, just putting yourself through the process of creating one single drawing or one single painting is a challenge in and of itself that requires grit, persistence. It requires critical thinking so that you can solve those problems that come along the way as you're creating. Sharing your work, if you're doing that, that is also challenging. If you're wanting to sell your work, that is even more challenging. So all of these things have their challenges. Also, something that I constantly say is whether you think you can or can't, you're right. Your mindset can be that one thing that propels you forward at lightning speed as you continue progressing your drawing or painting skills. And it can also be the one thing that holds you back from doing anything. So this is why I always want to encourage you, continue improving your mindset. And how do you do it? Well, you can read books if you're suffering with something like limiting beliefs or anxiety, and also learning about psychology in general, but psychological things that may have impacted you throughout your life that have led you to have these limiting beliefs. That is also very helpful, because at least you know what the root cause is, and know that you're not alone. You're not kind of a weird person for feeling or thinking this way. One of the things that I have added here into this slide is Carol Dweck's TED Talk on the growth versus fixed mindset. I highly recommend looking for that TED Talk on YouTube. You're going to find it very easily, just by typing in Carol Dweck growth versus fixed mindset. People that have a growth mindset believe that there is no cap or limit to their learning or to their development. And that as long as they're continuing to put in the work and the focus and the energy on that one thing that they want to grow in, they're going to continue developing in that area. And then people with a fixed mindset, they feel that people are born talented. A lot of us fall into thinking that when it comes to artists, they are simply born talented, but this isn't the case. Oftentimes, those people that we think are geniuses or have some sort of innate talent, well, they have been actually putting in the work since a very, very young age, or they have grown up with parents who were artists themselves, or in an environment that is very conducive to them developing those skills faster. Sometimes at an age at which it's just weird for us normal people, and we're like, okay, they're geniuses. But the fact of the matter is that they've been putting in the work and they've been growing in that environment that is conducive to that, and we just didn't see it. But anyway, people with a fixed mindset believe that there is a cap to what they can do. People with a growth mindset are going to see mistakes and things like that as just part of the process. They're not going to have that defeatist attitude and as overwhelmed when they do have struggles and they do mistakes and create bad works of art than people with a fixed mindset. People with a fixed mindset are going to make mistakes, and they're going to get super frustrated when their artwork is not what they initially envisioned. They're going to let emotions take over, and they're going to crumple it and throw it in the trash, and then maybe think that they're not meant to be an artist. So you can see how having a growth mindset is going to be incredibly helpful for you as an artist. And I'm not saying that feeling self-doubt or having limiting beliefs should be eradicated, and that if you feel this way or think this way, you're not going to be able to ever make anything. But if you feel this way constantly, if you are overcome with limiting beliefs all the time, if you're the type of person that fears the blank page, you feel a lot of anxiety that you're not going to do things right, that you're going to waste time and supplies and all these things, they come up even for me sometimes. But the thing is that if you are unable to do the work because you're overcome with self-doubt and limiting beliefs to the point that you don't do anything, that is an issue. That is something that you have to work on. Have a look at the media that you're ingesting and the people that you're surrounding yourself with, because that has a huge impact on your mindset. So when I wanted to start changing my mindset, and when I wanted to start overcoming those limiting beliefs that I had in the beginning, one of the main things that I did was start listening to people who were actually successful at doing what I wanted to be doing, people who were positive, giving me things that would benefit me, things that would serve me. Those are the kinds of things that you want to be looking at and filling your brain with. Tip number 2, reflect on last year. A lot of people skip this step, and it is very important. Before starting your list of 20 new goals, reflect on the current chapter in life that you're in and that you're going to be in the next couple of years, perhaps. If you did set goals last year, what went well and what did you struggle with? Did you set unrealistic goals for yourself, or do you find that you can probably do a little bit more? These are all questions that I want you to start asking yourself. Will you be having more or less time available for your art practice in 2024? Is there anything new that you like to explore or learn about that maybe, you started getting curious about last year? Is there an area in your life, and I want you to be very honest about this, that you found that you are neglecting? So whether it's your health, your relationships with your important people in your life, having fun, doing things just for the fun of it, because that is super important. For me, it's definitely my relationships. If you have 20 minutes to just journal things out, it just helps set the foundation for better goal setting. Okay. Tip number 3, set goals in 3 different areas. Don't neglect any of these areas, please, because they all impact each other so much. Think of this as a stool with 3 legs. Okay. If one of these legs breaks, then the entire stool will fall. There is your personal kind of area or arena or category, whatever you'd like to call it. The personal category has to do with your mental and physical health. So ask yourself, what will I be doing each week to take care of my well being? Eating nutritious food, exercising, journaling, meditation, therapy sessions, whatever it is that you have started doing that you want to continue doing in the upcoming year, or whatever little things you want to start doing next year, start thinking of at least 3 things that you want to work on next year. The second category is the professional category. And here we have work related skills or skills that you're serious about improving in. Think about what you want to learn and become better at. What new classes, workshops, mentors can I find this year to take this particular thing to the next level? Maybe resources, books, tools, setting up a studio, all these things that will help you reach goals in the professional area. Just start thinking of those little things. And finally, the third category is the interpersonal category. This is where the relationships with your loved ones come in. Family, friends, colleagues. What will I be doing each week or each month to nurture the relationships that are important to me? If you neglect your physical well-being, or even your relationships, your fun time with friends, all of that is going to affect your productivity and your happiness with the other ones. Okay, so just always have these 3 things in mind. And a little note that I added here at the end was 3 goals in each category is more than enough. Don't start setting 15 goals for each one, because it's just going to be super difficult for you to fit everything in. We want to stay practical and realistic with our goals. I want you to really distill everything down to the main base foundational goals that are going to help you propel these other 5 things that you have over here. You can remove those 5 things, because doing this one down here is going to help you grow these other things indirectly. Distill things down as much as possible, because having too many things on your plate, it's going to overwhelm you. If anyone has not heard about the term SMART goals, SMART is an acronym. Each letter in the word SMART means one thing that you have to make sure that all of the goals that you set for next year have. Because if your goals don't have these 5 things, it's going to be very difficult to actually reach them. So let me tell you what these 5 things are. First, the goal has to be specific. It's simple. It answers who, what, when, where, which, why, all those essential questions. Let's just say that you say you want to lose weight. Tell me you want to lose 5 pounds. You want to lose 3 pounds, right? And by when? Right? Doing what? Why do you want to lose 5 pounds? And have that meaningful why. So another one related to art would be like, I want to draw better. I want to develop my drawing skills. How exactly? Because that is not specific enough. What do you want to learn to draw better? What do you want to become better at drawing? Is it portraits? Is it animals? Is it landscapes? Is it still life? I want to become better at drawing animals. That is much more specific than saying I just want to draw better. M means measurable. And measurable means that you have a specific metric for measuring tangible progress. So an example for this could be the 100 pages in this sketchbook. This entire sketchbook is going to be finished by the end of the year, or by the end of these next 4 months or whatever the case may be, that is measurable because you can see, you can count the actual pages that you filled up with drawings or paintings. You can count each page. Okay, that is measurable. Or I am going to create a body of work of 10 pieces by the end of June. By the first half of the year, I'm going to be creating 10 paintings. That is measurable because you can count the paintings. So you can't just say, this year I'm going to be painting a lot. That is very, very general. Give yourself a specific way that you can actually count or measure. Moving on to A. This is achievable. So achievable for you, okay? Not achievable for Lily or Patrick or whoever, okay? This has to be achievable for you in your current life situation. You can make it happen with the resources and the time that you currently have in this chapter in your life. We have to be very practical about things because if we aren't, we can easily overwhelm ourselves and not do anything or give up too fast. When I am starting with my long-term goals, for example, I always give thought to if I am going to be taking any classes, any kind of classes that are going to involve me setting aside a chunk of time on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays from this hour to this hour. I'm going to be at that class. Okay. I am responsible for my attendance at that time on those days. And then I have another day where I'm always having a therapy session on this day at this time. On these days over here, I'm always teaching class from this hour to this hour. I need to take into account all of those specific time bound things that I have that involve other people that I always have to be mindful of because other people are involved. You want to always have all of those commitments and responsibilities first in mind before setting any new goals. If you have a calendar, you always want to start by blocking those things out that you know that you have to be at. Right. And doctor's appointments and all these things are going to keep coming up. But establishing those things first in your calendar where you're going to be busy, that is going to make it super clear what days and times you have available for your art practice. Okay. Moving on to R, and this is relevant. This is so important. Your goals have to be important and meaningful to your bigger picture, not your friends, not your sisters, not your moms. But don't take other people's goals on as yours because if they are not super important to you and they're not related to your deeper why, you're going to give up. When life gets messy and hard, which it will, you're going to very easily give up on that. And then what happens is that you lose confidence in yourself because you told yourself that you were going to do it and then you end up not doing it. And then your confidence becomes lower and lower because you're not able to keep those promises that you made for yourself. So how do you do this? Set realistic goals that you can actually do because every single time you reach that little milestone, every single time that you check off that little thing off your list, that is a little vote of confidence in yourself that grows and then you're able to take on bigger things. That's what you want. And the last one, T, is time bound or time sensitive. Okay, so this means that you set a specific due date for yourself or a specific kind of time period that you're going to be working on that project or whatever on. And then there's a specific day or start of the month or whatever that or end of the month that you're going to be done by. I know that when it comes to artistic and creative projects, it's difficult to be so specific when it comes to times. I know. However, I always say give yourself more time than you initially think you'll need. Even if you don't reach that specific, like if you don't finish by that specific time, you can always expand that period a little bit more if you need to, if things came up, if life got crazy. There is absolutely no issue. There is no shame in giving yourself more time, giving yourself an extra week or even an extra month if it was a hard season. Okay. There is nothing wrong with that. But by establishing a specific time, at least initially, and starting to give thought to how long your process takes you and how long different parts of your process take, at least you're starting to understand your own pace and your own way of working. And you can get better and better at estimating the time that it actually takes you to finish artistic projects. So here are a few examples of SMART goals that an artist could set. The first one is by mid-year, so maybe June or July, I'll have filled up all 120 pages of this sketchbook with personal drawings and studies of figures and hands. The second example is by the end of 2024, I'll have completed 6 online courses offered by artists I admire to improve my drawings and paintings of landscapes and rural scenes. Another one is each month of 2024, I'll be producing 2 original watercolor paintings stemming from reference photos of still life arrangements that I create at home or in my studio. As you can see, all of these are specific because you're establishing what and how many. All of these are measurable because you can actually count the pieces that you create or the pages that you fill in. They are achievable because they're taking into account what you can realistically do. They're relevant to one's own interests because I am bringing in a specific subject and art medium that, as an example, the person here wants to grow in. And I've also set a specific time frame that the person wants to be done by. What I mean by mediums is drawing mediums are graphite, charcoal, colored pencils. Watercolor pencils are a drawing and a painting medium all wrapped up in one, but you can see them as whatever you prefer. Or pen and ink, that is also a drawing medium. Marker, all of those are drawing mediums. And then when it comes to painting mediums, you have watercolor, you have gouache, you have acrylics, oils, etc. You can do mixed media, but if you're going to be doing mixed media, what mediums are you going to be bringing into your mixed media pieces? Is it pen and watercolor? Is it gouache and watercolor? Is it oils and acrylics? And then when it comes to subjects, what I mean by subjects is the type of artwork in terms of like what you're seeing. Is it portraits? Is it figures? Is it animals? Is it still life? Is it abstracts? So think about it in terms of that. What do you want to grow in specifically? What are like projects or specific activities that you can do to grow in that area? Are you going to be growing by filling up a sketchbook? Are you going to be growing by creating full paintings? And maybe the number of paintings is how you're going to be measuring your progress. Or maybe you want to take courses and you want to complete courses by a certain date. Maybe there's already a course out there that you've had your eye on, provided by an artist that you admire, whose work you love, and you want to start that course and you want to finish it in a couple of months. Or maybe you want to buy a couple of books. Maybe they have been recommended by artists, or maybe a friend of yours has recommended it. If books are something that are a good resource for you, that works for your style of learning, that could be something that you set. I'm going to read this book by this point, and I'm going to make sure to work on the exercises provided by that book by this point. Think of the specific learning resources that you love, that you enjoy, that you get value from. And maybe that is something that you can set as a goal, a course, a book. Did you guys know that if you write your goals down, or even the act of journaling what you want for your life, even if it's not like in a goal list, did you know that if you actually write things down, there is a greater chance that you'll actually achieve those goals and that you'll actually have that life? When you write things down or when you create vision boards, what you're doing is you're not only visualizing what you want for your life, which gets you more inspired and more motivated to work toward that, but you're also physically generating a visual cue through creating that visual cue tangibly and seeing that with your eyes. That is much more powerful and it sticks in your brain more than when you just read something or you think about it once and you just let it go without writing it down. Having visual cues, even just writing things down and then closing that journal, sketchbook, that notebook, whatever it is, posting that thing up on a wall or creating a vision board, which probably you guys know what a vision board is, this, but it's when you cut out actual images from magazines or the internet, printouts, whatever it is, that symbolize specific things that you want for yourself, whether it's a house, your own art studio, or any images that prompt you or remind you to think of that thing that you want for yourself, that you want in your life. Then the vision board is posted up on the wall, all of these visual cues. And then what happens is that you're constantly seeing them throughout the day. By seeing them throughout the day, even if you're not consciously thinking of your goals, gets those things stuck in your head, you're going to start working toward that without even thinking about that. But even just writing things down and setting them aside, that is also very powerful. Writing things down and creating vision boards for yourself, if that is something that works for you, every single year you're going to discover things that you need to improve or change in your goal setting method. This is not a one and done kind of situation, but a constant iterative process where you reflect on last year and you change things. Plus, your life and your priorities also change over time. When a new year ends, or at any point that you feel it would be helpful for you to change or improve your strategy, just go ahead and make changes that you believe will help you work toward your goals with less stress and more joy. Okay, you always have permission to change things. Moving on to the 3 main time management and productivity tips that I wanted to share with you. These are all very important things that I make sure to do every single week in order to consistently just work toward my goals. The first one is establish a space to work in. Like, is there a specific area of your house, a specific room that you like working on your art in? For me, when I first started getting serious about progressing my art skills, when I was still working at that last regular full-time job as a teacher, my little art space was the end of my dining room table. That's where I worked. I set my art supplies right there at the end of my table, and I always had them there, and I let my husband know that that would be the place where I would be working on my art. And that's where I started. Whether it's your kitchen table or a corner of your bedroom or an entire room, whatever it is for you, just decide and establish where you're going to be working on your art each week. Make it inspiring. Make that little spot inspiring. Make sure that you keep your art supplies visible and readily available. You don't want to have your art supplies locked in a closet or in the bottom of a drawer or something like that, because you want to make things as easy as possible for you, especially on those very busy days where you're going to be tired. It's so important that you just make things as easy as possible for you to just grab and go. And sometimes you're just going to have 15-20 minutes to work, and that is fine. But as long as you do those small steps consistently, that is what matters. I always talk about the power of timed sketches and smaller pieces and explorations and studies in between larger pieces. And honestly, this is something that I've shared before. When I was super busy working at my last teaching position, the way that I stayed consistent and was able to grow my skills, my drawing and painting skills, was through smaller pieces, was through taking my sketchbook to work and working on those 15-20 minutes in between some of my classes that I had when I had extra moments. It was through working on weekend mornings in my living room and just making sure that I was staying consistent with smaller pieces. Creating smaller pieces consistently, but going through that process over and over and over again, even if they're imperfect, smaller pieces, is going to get you faster progress than working on larger pieces every 3, 4, 5 months. A little suggestion for those of you who have kids, dogs, a very small space to work in, or a very small living space, consider preparing a little box, pouch, bin, or something like that to store your supplies in, but keep that box visible to remind you, to serve as that visual cue that'll remind you to work, to do something that day. And a lot of people ask me, do I have to work? Do I have to draw or paint every single day? And the answer is no. I don't draw. I've never drawn or painted every single day. Okay. I've been realistic about what I can do every week, and I've just stayed consistent over time, and it has worked. But I would say that the faster you want to grow, the more you should be drawing or painting. So I would say at least 4 times a week, you should be practicing your drawing or painting if you're serious about progressing. Number 2, make your work time known by those that you live with, and even your friends or family, if they're constantly calling you and asking for help, so that you can, let's just say all of those people who are a constant in your life, especially closest family members and immediate family members and friends who you see a lot, you want to let them know when you're going to be working and where you're going to be working, because what happens is that they're going to be calling you, they're going to be interrupting you. And this is something that we want to avoid as much as possible, because creative work is something that requires focus and requires being present and in the moment. And I have this video where I talk about why getting in flow is so important for artists and why it's difficult for us nowadays to get into that beautiful state of flow, and things that you can do, practical tips that you can do to help you get into the flow. You need to be protective of your time and energy and focus. And so all of those people that are constantly needing you, just let them know when you're going to be working. And I know that when you have little kids, this can be difficult, and you need to work around the time that they're sleeping and their own routines. Whenever you can, when your children are a little bit older, or you're living with a partner, whatever the case may be, whatever people rely on you, you want to let them know, this is when I'm going to be working. I'm not going to be answering the phone, or please don't interrupt me unless the house is burning down, something like that, because otherwise it's going to be very difficult for you to be able to fully immerse yourself in what you're doing. And that is so important for artists. And the last thing that I'm going to say here is learn to say no and set boundaries to protect your time and energy. As a woman, and a woman who has been trying to improve her people pleasing for many years, learning to say no has been very hard for me, but I'm definitely getting better at it. And I know that through saying no, I am not only protecting myself and my time, which is my most valuable asset, but I'm also making sure that when I do show up, I show up 100%. I'm able to be a better person for others when I do show up, and I'm making time to take care of myself, which allows me to be a better person for those around me. So I just want to remind you of that, because as women, a lot of us always put ourselves last. And I think that many times, if we're not careful, we start doing this to our detriment, and we start setting aside our well-being and our wants and needs and dreams for other people. And I don't want this for you. I want to see a ton of female artists out there. That is one of the reasons why we see more male artists, or why there are so many more well-known male artists than female artists. But that is a topic for another day. Just be careful. Allow yourself to get immersed in your work. And number three, to better manage your time as an artist, is try to minimize distractions in those working times that you establish for yourself in your calendar. So when it is time to get to work, make sure that you are doing whatever you can to minimize distractions. And the little tip that I just shared has to do with this one, that will help you minimize them. Just remember that even small distractions can get you out of flow, and it can be very difficult to get back into it after you have lost it. So a few things that I do is I close unnecessary tabs on my computer. I don't even look at social media most of the day. And I always have my phone on airplane mode. I cannot have my phone dinging and ringing all day long, because I won't get anything done. So the very first thing that I do whenever I get a new phone is remove notifications, keep it on silent. Only days that I actually can hear my phone ringing, or that I increase the volume in the ringing of my phone so that it actually rings, is when my husband has an errand that he is out of the house for, or someone is in the hospital. Or the other day, we adopted a little kitten and we had her spayed. So I turned up the volume of the ringer on my phone, in that, like, the next day when the vet was going to reach out. Those are the only times where I increase the sound of my phone, the ringing, so that I can hear it. If I am not in those kinds of situations, my phone is on silent. I'm not even going to know if people sent me a WhatsApp, if people called me, and I highly recommend that. I cannot tell you how much that has done for my mental health and also for my productivity. But now, what is the strategy that we can actually use? We need a strategy to work through. Otherwise, what's the point of anything? we're not going to be able to move toward our goals. First and foremost, and we already talked about the importance of analyzing and reflecting on your last year. I provided all of those important questions to start reflecting on. But also, I want you to think about your vision. So, what is the vision that you have for your life? What is that life that you want to be living? What does your life look like? Allow yourself to dream big. So many of us feel like we don't deserve to dream big. Subconsciously, we feel like we don't deserve those things, but you do. And then once you have allowed yourself to dream big, then we're kind of going to break that down into doable chunks or tasks. Okay. So, where do you want to be 6 months or a year from now in those three important areas of your life that we were talking about before? So, where do you want to be in 6 months from now in those three important areas of your life? When I was first starting to build my online art business, this is something that I learned in a course that I invested in. I continue thinking of this one question because it has helped me in all aspects of my life, including my artistic skills, my artistic development, and my art business that I'm building. So, this question is, who do I have to be to do the things I have to do to get what I want to have? Be, do, have. Because you have to visualize that person that you want to become and start doing those things that that person does so that those things eventually become natural to you and just something that you do, like part of your routine, part of your habits. Think of the things that you have to do to get to that life that you want to be living, to become that artist that you want to be. Think of the person that you have to become in order to do those things. Start being that person that has what you want so that you can do those things consistently. Now that you've thought about that, you're going to start establishing your long term goals. And this is where the worksheets come in. So, what I do for my strategy is I think of those long term goals, which usually I don't go past a year. When I say long term goals, I don't go past a year because a year is already a long time. Lots can change throughout the year. You can get a lot of things done in a year, but also things can change. So you don't want to commit so closely or rigidly to a goal and set it for 3 years from now because your life can change. So I think that a year, 6 months to a year, honestly, can be a great amount of time to really work toward your current goal. And then as life changes and you evolve as a person, as an artist, then you can establish new goals. It allows you enough time to progress, but it doesn't limit you or constrain you too much. And honestly, in the beginning, when I was first starting with my goal setting, 6 months was already, I was overwhelmed to work on something for 6 months. It was scary to me to devote so much time and energy for 6 months to work on a goal. But today I am able to set goals for a year, but I don't set goals past that. Whatever works for you, whether it's 6 months to a year, that is going to be your long term goal. Establish long term goals in personal, interpersonal, and professional areas. So think of setting 3 long term goals in each area. From there, after having set my 3 long-term goals for each area, I then break down those long-term goals into short-term goals. And my short-term goals are my monthly objectives. That's what I like to call them, monthly objectives. So you have your long-term goals, you break them down into short-term objectives, which are going to get done each month. And then from there, those monthly objectives are going to be broken down further into weekly tasks. And those weekly tasks are what you plug into your weekly or daily planner for those of you who use an agenda, which I am very, very old school. I like writing things down. I always have my planner and I also have my notebook. I'm carrying around my notebook with me every day because I'm always writing stuff down. I'm not so much a technology person with a calendar and my schedule online and stuff. If you are cool, that's something that you can definitely use. But I like writing stuff down. I just find it's easier for me. I have added just a few of the pages from the downloadable PDF that I shared with you. So this is the long-term goals sheet that we're going to get started with. So first, I ask you to decide if your long-term goal, are you going to be working in 3-month increments or periods, 6 months or 12. I would not start with anything below or less than 3 months. And as I said, I always nowadays work with 6 months or the entire year, which is 12 months. It really is up to you. Like, what are you more comfortable with right now? And you can always expand and improve as you go year by year. And you can set your long term goal to be like a 3 month period that you're going to be working toward that long term goal, because 3 months is still enough time that you can make decent progress in an area if you focus and stay consistent, but it's not too little time. It's a doable time that you can get a lot done. 6 months, even better. 12 months might be intimidating for some if you feel intimidated by having to work on something for 12 months. Maybe you want to stick to 6 months. Pick one and you're going to write it down there, that little line that I've left. Remember, these are your big goals. They should feel a little bit scary, but also doable for your current chapter in life and also the amount of months that you've set. So, obviously, if you have established that you're going to be using the 3 month period as your long term goal, then you're not going to be able to do as much as someone who picks a 6 month period. And then that person with a 6 month period is not going to be able to do as much as someone with a 12-month period. It has to go hand in hand with the number of months that you have established that you're going to be working toward that goal. You have to think about your current chapter in life and what you have going on. Okay. And as I said before, try to limit your goals to no more than 3 in each area, because if you go beyond that, that's going to be too much. Narrow it down, distill everything down to the very bare bones that you know are going to help you improve in those other areas. Just as an example, for me, one of my professional goals is going to be to grow on YouTube. I also had initially in my very long goal list, my initial long goal list that I had to distill down, I had on there improve quality of my videos, my YouTube videos, or my content in general. Honestly, I could remove that or remove grow on YouTube, because if I improve the quality of my content, my YouTube channel is going to grow. So I can get rid of one of those and just leave one, because I know that doing that is going to help the other one grow. And I'm sure that you can do the same thing for other goals that you have in any area of your life. So try to do that so that you only have 3 at most for each area, because 9 goals is already quite a bit. Okay, so I already explained what personal, professional, and interpersonal are. Right here in this one, you also see your non-negotiables. I highly, highly recommend establishing non-negotiables. These are little habits or part of your routines. They don't have to be necessarily daily routines. They can be part of your weekly routines, but these are things that you simply have to get done every single day or week, because they propel you to work on the other things more intentionally and more effectively. For example, if one of my personal goals is to get more hours of sleep in, because I'm sleeping very poorly and maybe I want to make sure to get in at least 7 hours of sleep every night, then perhaps I have to make sure to end my workday at 5 or 6 p.m. so that I give myself enough time to have dinner and maybe relax for a bit, and then be able to wind down and go to sleep by 10 or whatever, by making sure that I add that non-negotiable ending my workday at 5 or 6 p.m. I can make sure that I'm going to be able to reach my goal of going to bed by 10. What's another non-negotiable that I can give you? Having a daily workout, or making sure that I exercise 4 times a week. Whatever makes sense for you when it comes to exercise. Maybe it can be a morning walk. I don't know if this has happened to you guys, but when I started exercising consistently, I noticed my focus improved tremendously. The brain fog that I had and my ability to focus, not only like my ability to enjoy my work, but the focus. I cannot explain enough how much exercise has helped me be more focused on those working times. If exercising 30 minutes in the morning is going to help you get to work at 10 a.m. or 9 a.m. and be focused during that morning block so that you can get more work in, then that is a non-negotiable. Working out 5 days a week in the morning for 30 minutes. That is a non-negotiable. If one of your interpersonal goals is to have dinner with your family every single day at 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. Your non-negotiable could also be to end work by 4 or 5 or whatever is going to allow you to be ready to have dinner with your family at 5 or 6 p.m. So those are quote unquote rules that you set for yourself, little boundaries that you set for yourself, right? And then from there, I'm going to teach you how to break those down into monthly objectives. So every single goal that you create in terms of your long-term goals, they have to be brought into your monthly calendar. Here I just have the first one, but in the handout, I have January all the way through December. If you said that you're going to fill up a sketchbook in 6 months by June or July, then how are you going to break up that big goal into monthly objectives so that you can make sure that by June or July, you have filled up the entire sketchbook? It's a 100-page sketchbook. Use a calculator, or if you're good at math, you can do this just in your mind. But like you can say 100 pages divided by 6, which is the number of months that you establish that you're going to be working toward that goal. If you say 100 divided by 6, you're going to get exactly the number of pages that you need to fill in each month, so that by the end of the 6 months, you can make sure that the entire sketchbook is filled in. So that would mean that in every single month, let's just say it's in the professional arena because I'm giving the sketchbook example, you say, I'm going to fill up this amount of pages in my sketchbook on January. I'm going to fill up this amount of pages in my sketchbook in February, this amount of pages in my sketchbook in March, this amount of pages in my sketchbook in April, etc., until you get to June or July. And in the personal and interpersonal, sometimes you're just going to do exactly the same thing every single month, because these are more ongoing things that you want to continue doing week by week and month by month. So you don't have to necessarily repeat every single thing. Sometimes I just like doing a little kind of symbol that essentially means same thing, or you can just do a little arrow. But sometimes, let's just say that next year you've already planned that in April you have this trip to Europe. Well, you can already have that in mind in your calendar and block that month kind of out for specific goals, that because you know that you're not going to be working toward your goals, at least not actively that month. Or you can lower the amount of times that you're going to be exercising each week, or you're going to change the way that you exercise maybe, or you're going to stop seeing your friends that month because you're not even going to be in town. So you can just block that out and say trip to Europe, or whatever trip or event you already know is going to be happening that a couple of weeks of that month, or whatever the case may be. You have that already kind of visualized, added into your calendar, so that you know that maybe that week or a couple of weeks or that month, you're not going to be actively working toward your goals. And this is just the weekly tasks. So you break down those monthly objectives down into weekly tasks. So after having broken things down, for example, in the professional, the example I gave of like filling up a 100-page sketchbook in 6 months, if January has 4 weeks, and you said that you have to fill up, let's just say 20 pages in your sketchbook or 15 pages in your sketchbook in January in order to have the entire sketchbook filled by the end of 6 months, then if January has 4 weeks, and this is a weekly agenda, what are you going to do for those, how many pages did I say? 15 pages or whatever. You're going to break those down once again into 4, because January has 4 weeks. And then that is going to give you a doable chunk of, let's just say, I'm just going off the top of my head because I'm not good at math. Let's just say that you have to complete 3 pages in your sketchbook, or 3 sketchbook spreads. Okay. And then those 3 pages in your sketchbook are what you're going to place here and make happen in your weekly tasks or weekly calendar. So then you say 1 sketchbook page here, 1 sketchbook page here, whatever day or time works for you. So that is how you break big things down into doable daily tasks. Thank you so much to everyone who made it to the live stream today. I hope that this was helpful. I'm so glad to hear that you're excited for 2024. It's going to be a great year. Have a wonderful rest of your holiday season, a magical rest of your year. Enjoy your time with your loved ones and enjoy your art practice. And I will see you very soon.